Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This week has been so far pretty hard on investors in both stocks, whether you were trading blue chips or growth stocks, NASDAQ, as well as for the people who have been trading and staking in cryptocurrencies. As some of you may know, because recently the interest rate has been historically very low, and the yield of different financial instruments of the conventional institutions wasn't interesting enough or rewarding enough for people to put their money into them, a lot of people decided to put their money into cryptocurrencies, this relatively new area where a lot of possibilities are still there. So for instance, one of the most iconic ones has been Terra Luna and its stablecoin pool, US Terra. Earlier this week, cryptocurrency prices began to tumble, and tumble significantly, as in it was a far larger sell-off than a lot of the previous waves in recent history and memory. Bitcoin fell below 30,000 at some point, and even if right now it's like barely above it as I'm recording this video, a lot of other cryptocurrencies had much more catastrophic losses. Luna is one of those. It plummeted by almost 90% and plus. And as we speak, this post on Twitter that became a meme afterwards saying, Luna is going to hit $1 before Terra does, is kind of sort of becoming the truth. I mean, Luna is around $1 and Terra has yet to gain back its peg. So for those who are not very familiar with crypto and why this kind of phenomenon happened, I think that the explanation, even if a lot of people are wondering whether there are like conspiracies or concerted operations, the most obvious explanation, and it's also the most likely explanation, is that the market is spooked by the outcome of the world events and whether we're going to have an economy, period, in the future. And this is why a lot of people would prefer to go back to safer investments, crypto not being one of those. Although, arguably, you can say that stablecoins are like fiat currencies, meaning they're not supposed to change. There's not supposed to be like a difference between value and cost. But of course, that's only in theory. In practice, it depends on the individual stablecoin properties. So in the case of US Terra, because the currency isn't backed by hard collaterals, it's just tweaked by an algorithm saying we're going to make sure that the algorithm keeps it there. And every time you buy UST, we're going to burn Luna. So this is why it's going to have a deflationary relationship overall. With that being said, when one collapses, the other one will also be greatly disturbed. And this is, yes, the writing was on the wall, and sometimes when we think about a 20% interest rate from the Anchor protocol, things may seem too good to be true, but then again, it's not that far away from what other cryptocurrency staking opportunities offer. So what's happening now is that US Terra is trying to get back its peg, and the only plan that is left is for, one, the nature to play its course, meaning with time, the demand and supply will rebalance itself. And two, to absorb the UST supply, minting additional Luna. This would of course put a selling pressure on the latter, but right now the focus is on the stablecoin to make sure that it becomes a stablecoin once again. People who have holdings in both Terra and Luna, I would say that it depends on which one do you have. If you're having UST, the stablecoin, arguably, you don't need to really sell it, because either way, if you sell it now, in my opinion, it's not worth it, because you will simply end up realizing a loss that could have been avoided if you wait a few weeks. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed with crypto anyways. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the charts, and if you look at the tendencies over the past few hours, not even days, the value of UST went from around 32 cents to now it's hovering around 70 cents. So even in this difficult circumstances, even when the reserves of both LFG and Luna or Anchor protocol were at all-time lows. The theory behind my argument is that at some point there will be enough demand that will say, hey, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a stablecoin. Nothing says that this stablecoin will cease functioning. And also, this wave of sell-off is affecting most cryptocurrencies. Of course, Luna and Terra were affected the most, but still, I don't think that this is something that you can pin entirely on this ecosystem. So this is why I think that if the most of your position is in UST, then the best option is to wait. If most of your position is in Luna, of course it is to wait, but also with an additional consideration that if you can afford to get out, maybe consider to get out. Because it's no longer just a question of whether you have trust in the protocol or not. At the current stage, Luna has been used to save Terra, so there will be additional selling pressure on Luna, no doubt about it, unless of course the market completely turns over in the short or medium term. I personally don't think that this is going to happen very soon, simply because of the overall market sentiments, not only in crypto, but also in other markets. I think that in terms of years, it may take up to 24 months before the market really turns back, or at least finds a stabilizing level. We haven't reached that point yet now. Although, of course, some cryptos are going to recover better than others. Some didn't even move. So like, for example, if you go to see decentralized or collateralized stablecoins, none of them really moved. So even for Tether, a cryptocurrency that a lot of people were like, oh, you know what, maybe the assets that they own are volatile, are not real assets, and so on and so forth, even they have managed to hold the ground. So in a way, this is a good news, so to speak, like a silver lining for people who want to stay in the cryptocurrency environment with some of their capital. It means that at least we can see that most of the stablecoins are kind of safe. It's just a question of how much yield you can get off them. Because things like USDT and USDC and DAI, their return is between 3 to 5% on most platforms. And to be honest, at this rate, I think you're just better off buying corporate bonds on your typical stockbroker. It would be easier, arguably safer, and you don't have that much headache to always babysit on your computer. Lastly, I'm wondering about what kind of lessons we as a collective can learn from these recent events. Frankly, I think that they are limited, other than the fact that maybe to control your risk and to always only buy with whatever you can afford or always trade with what you can afford. Other than that, we cannot say that, oh, we saw the writing on the wall. I think that this is a very misguiding theory to have, because a lot of people may guess all sorts of scenarios weeks ahead, and for 99% of the times, they were simply wrong. It's just that this time they were right. Very few people could have predicted that the cryptocurrency market is going to fall like it did, and yet it fell more than what most people feared. So personally, I just take this as a part of the market, as part of the realities involved in trading in this environment, which by the way is also the same thing with the equity market, especially NASDAQ. So for those wondering what's ahead of us, I think that we're going to see more bearish side of things before seeing the bulls coming back. I mean, after all, the bulls have been running for the past 10 plus years as far as the financial market is concerned, and for crypto in particular, 2021 and 2022 have seen a lot of new networks being developed, being widely used, and being acclaimed by the same investors who nowadays are dumping them in a fire sale. If we look at our own portfolios over the course of the next few decades, because that's really the scope we should be using, since we will still be around in a few decades, then we should always have a discipline in evaluating whether we are ready to take on a position and to be able to hold it for a certain period of time, and whether we're able to liquidate a position when the conditions no longer meet. Personally, I think that at the moment, it may not be the best timing to buy altcoins or even Bitcoins for that matter, like anything with a volatile value, because I don't think that the bottom has been touched yet. We may see some additional downside pressure in the weeks and months to come. And if the crypto market follows the course of the financial market at large, this may suggest that the bearish tendencies are going to stay for at least 6 to 9 months to come. And any of our individual positions that are categorized as one and the same should be viewed as the same kind of risk. So definitely put your eggs in different baskets so that you don't incur heavy losses when volatility hits one single asset type the hardest. As for Luna, I think that we should wait for at least a couple months before we see that maybe the market will come back for more of it in due times. For now, everything is focused on US Terra, and this is done at the price of seeing the value of Luna at a lower place. I would recommend to hold your US Terra for at least 6 months and your Luna for at least that amount of time as well. However, for your Luna tokens, if you can afford to cut the losses, maybe cut the losses or at least some of it now so that you don't lose all of it in the process of attempting to save the stablecoin. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my channel, please like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time.